And then Takamichi arrived at the address that was on the postcard. And after entering the building, Takamichi suddenly heard someone say his name, and in this moment we got to see a small glimpse of Mikey for the very first time. And in this scene we also got to see the reaction of Takamichi, and Takamichi just had a very surprised look on his face. And then the next scene shows us a very beautiful shot of Mikey and Takamichi, and in this moment they are just staring at each other, and in the background we can see that the rays of light are coming in from the cracks in the building. And when he saw Mikey, we saw that Takamichi started tearing up, and in this moment Takamichi was thinking to himself that Mikey has the same look in his eyes. And in this moment we also get to see a close-up shot of Mikey's face, and we can also see that Mikey is smiling at Takamichi. Anyway guys, this is where chapter 117 ends, and chapter 118 begins with showing us that Takamichi just said Mikey's name. And then in the next scene we see that Takamichi suddenly started crying, and in this moment he has tears streaming down his face. And then Takamichi tried to wipe the tears off of his face, and while he was doing this Takamichi was apologizing to Mikey. And Mikey responded to this by telling Takamichi that he is still a crybaby even after all this time, and while he was saying this Mikey was holding up his chin. And then, in the next scene Takamichi started smiling. And then Mikey told Takamichi that he called him here to ask him for a favor, and then Mikey said after he came here he suddenly started getting memories of his older brother. And then Mikey started telling Takamichi about his backstory, and Mikey told Takamichi about how he grew Toman. And then Mikey told Takamichi that Toman changed, and then Mikey just asked Takamichi why he decided to leave Toman. And then Mikey told Takamichi that he wanted him to stay, and Mikey also told Takamichi that he wanted him to scold him like a brother would. And this dialogue is a reference to episode 34 of Tokyo Revengers, and the reason why I say this is because in this episode Takamichi made a promise to Mikey that he would scold him like his brother would. And Mikey said that he kept going on his own, however he couldn't stop from losing himself. And we saw that Takamichi started crying after hearing about this story. And then Mikey said that Draken and Mitsuya are just the best, and then in the next scene Mikey told Takamichi that he is the person who killed them. And then Mikey told Takamichi that the old Toman doesn't exist anymore, and then Mikey said he killed every single one of them. Anyway guys, in this scene Mikey was telling Takamichi that he killed everyone, and then Mikey told Takamichi that he wants to ask him to end all of this. And then in the next scene we saw that Mikey gave Takamichi his gun, and in this moment Mikey told Takamichi that he wants Takamichi to kill him. And then in the next scene we get to see the reaction of Takamichi, and in this moment he has tears streaming down his face, and we also saw that Mikey was staring at Takamichi. Anyway guys, this is where chapter 117 ends, and chapter 118 begins with showing us that Mikey is telling Takamichi to kill him. And then in the next scene we see that Mikey started walking towards Takamichi, and after walking up to Takamichi Mikey said that he wants to end everything right here. And then Takamichi started begging Mikey to stop this, and Takamichi said that he just wanted to see him again. And Mikey said that Hakai said the same thing right before he died. And Mikey said that it is hard to make your dreams come true, and Mikey also said that before he knew it things got difficult. And then Mikey told Takamichi that the first time he killed someone, he didn't feel anything. And Mikey said that he realized that most problems can be solved by killing people. And Mikey said that he can just erase anyone who gets in his way. And in this moment Takamichi told Mikey that he is wrong, and Takamichi told Mikey that he hasn't changed at all. However, in the next scene we see that Mikey suddenly slammed Takamichi to the ground, and then Mikey asked Takamichi who does he think he is. And next the chapter switches back to the current timeline, and we see that Mikey is pointing his gun at Takamichi's head, and in this moment Mikey was also crying at the same exact time. And then Mikey told Takamichi to pick up the gun, and Mikey also told him that he has to kill him or else he will die. And then in the next scene we see that Mikey started crying, and in this moment Mikey had tears streaming down his face. And then the next scene shows us that Mikey's tears landed on Takamichi's face, and in this moment we saw that Takamichi was also crying. Anyway guys, chapter 118 ends with showing us that someone just shot a gun, and chapter 119 begins with showing us that a gunshot suddenly went off, and we saw that this gunshot hit Mikey in the head, and we saw that Mikey had blood coming out of his head. And after being hit by this bullet, we saw that Mikey's body fell down to the ground. And then we see that this gun was shot by Naoto, and after entering the building Naoto asked Takamichi if he is alright. And then Takamichi started holding Mikey's body, and in this moment Naoto suddenly realized that the safety was on for Mikey's gun. And in this scene we see that Takamichi is holding Mikey's head in his arms, and in this scene we also see that Takamichi is breaking down into tears. And then Takamichi started screaming out into the air, and Takamichi was screaming Mikey's name. And then Mikey said thank you to Naoto, and Mikey said that Takamichi wouldn't have been able to pull the trigger. And then Mikey said that he is glad that everything is finally over. And Mikey also said that his whole entire life was nothing but suffering and pain, and while he was saying this Mikey was breaking down into tears. And Takamichi told Mikey not to say that, and Takamichi also told Mikey that he will go back to the past so that he can change the future, and Takamichi said that he will never give up. And Takamichi told Mikey not to say something so depressing, and while he was saying this we saw that he had tears streaming down his face. And then Mikey said thank you to Takamichi, and Mikey said thank you for trying to comfort him. And Mikey said that it makes him happy even if he's lying. And then in the next scene Mikey told Takamichi that his hand is so warm, and in this scene Takamichi was holding Mikey in his arms, and while this was happening we saw that both of them were crying. And then Mikey's body suddenly went cold, and Mikey stopped responding to Takamichi. And this part of the episode was showing us that Mikey died in Takamichi's arms, and while this was happening Takamichi was remembering every single moment that him and Mikey both shared together. Anyway guys, this episode ends with showing us what happens after Mikey died in Takamichi's arms, and we get to see that Takamichi has a very determined facial expression. And in this moment Takamichi has tears streaming down his face, however from the look on his face we can see that Takamichi still has a very strong conviction to change the future. Anyway guys, this is where chapter 119 ends, and this is the end of this video. Anyway guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, and want to see more like it then like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching.